the 12 biggest strategy mistakes companies make. I work with companies, helping them develop their strategies, and I come across various similar mistakes that companies after companies tend to make when they want to design and develop and implement their strategy. So I thought I'd share with you the 12 biggest mistakes that I see time and time again. The first one is actually not having a strategy. So there are lots of organizations that think they can actually run their business without having a plan, and this will always fail. The most successful businesses know where their goals are, they know where they're going, and then they will deliver on those goals. The second mistake is when organizations only talk about strategy once a year. This is something I come across quite a lot. You have your annual planning cycle, and at the beginning of your financial year or at the beginning of the actual year, you sit down with the board and then you think, okay, what are our next goals? What should we be doing? And then this plan is being developed and then ends up in a drawer and comes out a year later. So this is, for me, strategy is something that has to be alive. This has to be something real that organizations are implementing day in and day out, where strategy becomes basically everyone's everyday job. The third mistake is simply regurgitating last year's strategy. It's bad enough if you only look at it once a year, but if you then just try to tweak your last year's strategy a little bit to make it any better, this is also not going to work, and I see this a lot. Another big mistake, number 4, is actually trying to please everyone in your strategy. So you're looking at all your key stakeholders. I see this quite often in public sector organizations where they go around saying, okay, this stakeholder wants me to do this stakeholder wants me to do this is what my customers want, this is what my employees want, what my partners want, and they try to please everyone. For me, strategy is about making choices, and that means prioritizing certain things and deprioritizing and not focusing on others. And companies that simply try to please everyone will not have a concise and well-aligned strategy, and they will definitely haven't got a focus on their strategy. A fifth mistake that I see companies making all the time is when they develop their strategy and they simply go around the organization to explore what is everyone doing at this point in time, and then you ask all your different departments to say, you come up with your own strategies, and then we try to merge them together into a company-wide strategy. This for me is again a recipe for disaster, because what basically happens is that you will have no priorities on a company level. So for me, this has to start at the top. You have to identify the top level goals, and then this has to inform what the rest of the organization or the departments need to do and prioritize. Another big mistake is then coming up with a War and Peace-like strategy document that runs into 20, 30, sometimes 50 or 100 pages. The problem with this is that no one will read it and no one will understand it. And quite often when organizations create quite woolly strategies, pleasing everyone, simply going around seeing what everyone else is doing, this then ends up in this massive document that in the end nobody reads and understands. So for me, a good strategy is one that initially fits on a simple one-page where you say, these are our goals, this is what we want to achieve, and then you have something that you can easily communicate and everyone will understand. And this also means that you get much better buy-in into this process. So this is another big mistake I'm seeing, that organizations lack, or they don't get the buy-in from everyone in the organization. When I work with organizations helping them develop their strategies, what we do is I will talk to every key person in the organization individually to really understand what they believe the challenges and priorities should be. And then you try to align all of them and see, is there consensus, where is consensus, and how can we bring this together into a small set of really strategic goals, so everyone feels that they have equally contributed to this. So this is an important step. Another mistake that I see regularly is where organizations develop a strategy, but they forget to consider competition. So what happens is that they design their own strategy thinking it's just them in this world, and they don't understand what other players in their industry are doing, and they fail to consider what moves others might be making, what new products they're focusing on, and so on. And what I also find is that even if companies do consider competition, they fail to look at competition beyond their own industry. What is happening more and more is that companies like Google and Amazon are now entering lots of different markets. So if you are an insurance company, for example, I've recently worked with one, and they said we look at the other insurance companies, but the whole sector is quite sleepy and pretty far behind. And if you then see what Google and Amazon are doing and other big technology companies, they're slowly developing products that could compete with them. So this is also important, to look beyond your industry boundaries and beyond your company boundaries. Then not communicating it effectively is another problem that I see regularly, where organizations design a strategy that then ends up in a drawer somewhere or stays on the board and at a board level where people understand the priorities, but they fail to really communicate this to everyone. And for me, once you've developed your strategy, you have to then put a communication plan in place, where you have town hall meetings where the executives actually go out and speak to people face to face to explain what those new priorities are and what they will mean for them. So communicating them, and this sometimes involves creating posters, creating some good images of your strategy. When I work with organizations, we often produce this one-page strategy document, and this then becomes really a very powerful way of communicating your strategy. Another big mistake is not having a delivery plan. If you think about this, you can set up as many goals as you want, but this is wishful thinking. This is a trip to fairyland if you then don't have a delivery plan behind this that will help you deliver this. So organizations sometimes come up with great goals, they can come up with great strategies, but they fail to then identify the action plans, the delivery plans. They have no idea of who is delivering what by when, and this is important. So organizations need to develop this delivery plan that helps them to achieve their strategic goals and priorities. Another big problem is when organizations don't monitor progress. So every strategy and every goal needs to have measures, metrics that help you to understand, are we now getting there? Because without them, it's like flying a plane blindly. You're saying we're on track here, we're on a mission to somewhere, but we have no idea where we are. So we need indicators, KPIs for all of our goals that then allow us to inform decision making. It helps us to adjust the direction when we go along. So there needs to be regularly monitoring of your strategy. And the final one is when organizations don't adjust and revise their strategy. So if this is a once in a year project, then this will not really work. Our world is moving at such a fast pace nowadays that organizations need to regularly revise their strategy. So again, if you have good indicators in place, you can then track progress and on a regular, maybe monthly or at least quarterly basis, reflect on your strategic goals and say, are they still relevant? Do we need to shift direction? So this becomes an ongoing, agile, engaging process where strategy becomes everyone's everyday job. If you want to learn any more about any of this, I have a lot of articles on my website that help you to develop better strategies, create these one-page plans, develop better indicators, put the processes in place to monitor and track performance. So have a look on bernardmar.com where you can find hundreds of articles, or if you want to discuss your own strategy project, get in touch and hopefully I can help.